If you've been following along on Twitter and in my Discord over the last few days, then you have noticed an uptick in arena discussions, and that is because starting tomorrow, we should be seeing some new info coming out around arena. BSG will have what it sounds like multiple booths or showings of the game, along with what I think is both private and public testing. It's actually a bit confusing, which honestly is on par for BSG, and I'd be worried if it wasn't, to be honest. I'd say we are going to hear about arena, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a lot. However, there is a booth at Gamescom, and it sounds like dozens of people will be able to play arena on site in Cologne, Germany at Gamescom. But what is yet to be seen or heard is what are we going to be able to hear if we're not actually at the show ourselves. I asked BSG if I could get an interview in, and they said to send questions, so I obliged and sent in 10 questions. Sometimes they answer and sometimes they don't. Obviously, I'm hoping they do answer on this one because there is so many people around the world that want to know what's going on with this, and we're not going to be able to take part. The only thing I'll add here is that I'm hearing there is an NDA involved around some of this stuff, so it's possible I either don't get answers on some questions, while the same would go for any creators that actually go to Gamescom and play in person. For one, I know Glorious E is going at least, but he might not be able to talk about it if he gets to play. I also asked you guys on Twitter what you would ask, and I actually know the answer to a lot of this already, so I'm going to go through what you guys asked, and then I'll share what I asked. Then if or when BSG responds, we'll compare the two. Dinez asks 11.7 arena win. Shout out to Dinez here. He's a longtime Tarkov streamer, which is why he's asking to roll back to 11.7, and of course that will never happen, but I believe there is some tuning that can happen with the settings for the private servers and tournaments. I'm thinking it could be possible that we can turn inertia down, but at the very least all skills up or something like that kind of variety. Goober asks about the anti-cheat, and Bell FPS actually answered it correctly, sort of. The answer here is that we're waiting for the netcode for the base game, and that's correct. However, it's the base game. Arena is a different project with a different netcode and base structure for competitive play. Arena should be coming out of the gate with the best that BSG have to offer for both, and even be specifically tuned for this. AKA Yazi asked about broadcasting tools, and I do believe there will be a fairly advanced spectator mode, which I asked about myself. Cracked asks about the economy between the two games and how that will work, and I'm curious about this myself. All we know right now is that there will be currency that moves from arena to the base game and gear that travels from the base game to arena, but we don't know specifics or limits. Hack.slash asks when, which of course I did ask about that as well. However, BSG did say arena will be out for testing this year, if not this fall, so we'll see what happens and who that includes. Technically, they're already already delivered there because people are going to be playing this tomorrow and all week apparently. So if they mean privately testing as in-house at the BSG offices or small testing at Gamescom, then yes, of course, we'd like to know when we all, get to play, get to test it. Because private could mean people that have bought into the game. Remember, this is early access. We're all paying to be here early, so it could be everybody. We'll see. Maybe it'll just end up being ETS or something too. Again, we'll see. SRB asks about the base game, and they want that to be fixed, and thinks that it affects arena, which it sounds like they don't know arena is a separate team with a separate core development and design structure. The development of the base game does not affect the development of arena whatsoever. In fact, if I put my tinfoil hat on and smoke a ton of crack, and even then knowing that this would never happen, it could be possible. There could be a world where they release arena, everybody likes it, and then they nuke the base game, fix everything they need to do, which they're kind of already doing. They're kind of using arena as a distraction since the game's in a really rough spot right now, and another wipe coming in December. Either way, arena does not affect the base game does not affect arena. They're both different teams and built different. NoiceGuy, sorry if I mispronounced that, asks how arena will affect balancing, and BSG have already answered this before, where because of the significantly increased data coming from arena, they will be able to fine-tune and balance weapons much more effectively, and that is something that can cross over between the two games. Weapon balancing, gear balancing. At the very least, the data will be much more clear and plentiful because of the quick turnaround on games. They also want to know if the arena weapons will be balanced differently just for arena, and I don't believe they will, but we'll see. I'll say that again, I highly doubt that they will. Caracicius, sorry about that pronunciation there, wants to know if we can go back and rewatch the game from everyone's perspective, and that is what they call the after raid replay. Last I heard from Nikita, he said this was still planned for arena at least, but we'll see what happens. I sort of asked about this myself, but it does seem like they really want tournaments to be a big thing here, so I think that would be a priority for them if that's the case. Callie wants to know how they plan to balance the netcode and right side peaking advantages, and that's a quick answer because it's different netcode in arena, like I mentioned earlier, and they're adding shoulder switching, so you'll be able to peek left eventually. Alex Rivera wants to know if this will keep the PvP focused players away, and I know for a fact it won't, but at least it will help. Inhuman wants to know if bolt action rifles will be available, and I asked about loadouts, but we'll have to see if these loadouts include bolt action rifles, as the marksman class class. And since the marksman class exists, I presume that they will, but we'll see. It's likely that those will be a high level unlock for obvious reasons. Smokey Foo wants to know if the economy will be separate, and we know it will be, but like I allude to already here, there will be a crossover, and I asked about that myself. Aaron asked about quest lines and tasks, so did I. Constanti wants to know about progression, matchmaking, and kit prices, as do I. Durbear asks about auctions, and that's a base game question, which while we're on the subject, I don't actually have an answer for that at the moment. ZX asks about skill-based matchmaking, and apart from the obvious with the ranked mode clearly being skill-based, I don't know if it will be for the other modes. However, given that there isn't skill-based matchmaking in the base game, I'm inclined to say no, but we'll see. Eric asks about PvPvE and what the E's role is there, which there will be modes where you fight players and bosses at the same time. Check out the Chronicles of Rizzy Season 2 Chapter 1. It will be a lot like that. And again, while we're on that subject, BSG puts the game in these little shows that they do. The Raid series follows exactly what they want for the base game verbatim. It's directed, it's built by BSG and Nikita himself to show that. And the exact same thing goes for the Chronicles of Rizzy. So there's going to be modes where you'll fight bosses and players, as well as sweepers like in the episode, aka the environment and players, aka PvPvE. The Notorious Dick wants to know if you can use money from Arena in the base game, and apparently yes, but we don't know what extent exactly. That's something that I asked about. Abel asked about controller support. I highly doubt that there will be. I've seen nothing to suggest that they're working on that. A few people asked about ranked, and we know there will be a ranked mode. This will be a highly competitive game, just in case bringing in a CSGO pro team to play before actual Tarkov fans and players was not telling enough for you. That's going to be a very big thing for them. A lot of people asked about loadouts, and I asked about custom ones, but as of right now, it seems like when you buy a loadout, you have to make that decision based on the entirety of the loadout. It might be cheap with cheap weapons and gear and ammo so that you save money, or it might be expensive with top tier weapon gear and ammo, then everything in between, including a mix and match of crap gear but good ammo, good gear, and a pistol, stuff like that. Flynn asked about VoIP. I think there is supposed to be VoIP, but we'll see. I'll say I'd be surprised if there isn't. People asked about game modes, and BSG have said any game mode that you're used to seeing in competitive shooters will be there. The modes that require respawns, I don't think are included, as that's been answered before, and Nikita said that instead of respawns, it will be a new round like in CSGO. I'd say it's possible that we might see some respawns or stuff like that, though. We'll see. Generally speaking, the rest of the questions were the same as what I've already answered or put here, so here's what I've asked specifically about, and we'll see what answers we get back. First question was, what is the goal of Arena? I hope in answering this, Nikita will shed some light on several different things. It's sort of the same play where sometimes by asking one open-ended question, you can get a whole bunch of different answers, and that's what I'm going for here. Question number 2 was, how will progression work? Do you get more access to classes through wins, XP, or overall ranking? This one's straightforward and important for balance between Arena and the base game, so that's why I'm asking it. Question number 3 is, will there be custom loadouts or only the pre-made ones like we've seen provided? I want to know if this is where the kits from the base game are going to come in specifically. Question number 4 is, how many maps will there be? This one's straightforward, and I think they said 7 in early access, but dozens later, and we've already seen 4 at least. That's between the woods map, the loading docks, the airport, and the mall. Question number 5 is, what is the performance differences from the base game? Higher tick rate servers, smaller maps, is there anything else? Again, straightforward and really important here with this one. Question number 6 is, how will Arena affect the base game, currency especially? Then quickly followed up with question number 7, how will the base game affect Arena, kit use especially? So in case you don't get either of these answered from the other questions, I wanted to be certain that I'd be straightforward with both of these, and hopefully we get a good answer. Question number 8 is, will there be a spectator mode, and how will that work? This is important for a lot of people, myself included, for tournaments and possibly even finding cheaters, if it includes that after raid replay system. Question number 9 is, will private offline lobbies give you access to every loadout so that you can hold tournaments, or will you only have access to what you've unlocked? With the competitive nature of this and the presumed higher performance, the ability to run lobbies with friends for practice is huge, as well as, of course, actual tournaments. Then last but not least, we have question number 10, where I just ask when with a smiley face. I think this one's pretty straightforward, and we'll see what he says. So again, those are the answers I have from the questions that you guys have asked on Twitter, along with what I've asked myself. We'll see what answers we end up getting. Also, in order to take part in stuff like this, you need to be following me on Twitter, and while you're at it, join the Discord, both linked below. The Arena stuff at Gamescom pops off tomorrow, so I'll talk to you guys when I hear more. Until then, you know the drill. Like if you did, sub for more, comment what you think, and check out my other channels for other games right here. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a nice day. See you guys tomorrow.